everyone, I'm Leanne.
And I'm Taylor.
And we're from the SDCC crew.
And we're here to give you some tips on how to have a successful Comic-Con experience.
So this is my 8th Comic-Con.
And this will be my 6th Comic-Con.
Yes. So we feel like we've learned a lot of tips and tricks over the years that we would like to share with you all. So we're just going to start from the beginning on tips to go to Comic-Con. So the first tip is create a Comic-Con account, obviously, because you need an account to get a badge. So whether you're a first-time attendee and you're going to open registration, or if you're a returning attendee and you're going to go to returning registration, it's super important to sign up for a buying group. Buying groups are the biggest tip that we can give you on how to go to Comic-Con.
Yes.
Because they increase your chance of getting a badge. If you're just trying by yourself, you only have I want to say it's like a 5% chance or something like that during probably even less during open registration of getting a badge just by yourself. So if you have like a small group of friends that are trying to go, you guys helping each other out to get a badge, or they also have online resources for if you want to join a group like on Facebook or some online forums. They have Comic-Con buying groups too, so we'll link all that stuff below. But those are super duper helpful if you want to get a badge.
So the reason why it's so helpful is because when you get in to buy a badge, you also have the option to purchase up to 3 more badges.
Yeah, so like if you only have yourself to buy for, but you're in a buying group, then you can buy for 2 other individuals that wouldn't have been able to buy a badge for themselves because they didn't get in.
Yeah.
So it's super great to increase your chances of getting a badge, or you could also help out other people that want to get a badge as well. So tip number 2, save money. Comic-Con is a very, very expensive convention. If you're planning on going to Comic-Con, start saving because it's really expensive. You have hotel, transportation costs, parking, food and beverages and stuff like that is really expensive. Exclusives. Number 3, hotels. So a couple months before the con, there is a hotel sale. There's an early bird sale, and then there's what we call the Hotel Apocalypse, which is like all of the downtown hotels, and then it includes like farther hotels as well. But it's basically like this huge lottery to try to get a hotel near the convention center. So just like with buying badges, it's super important to have a group of friends get together and all try for hotels to increase your chances of getting a closer hotel, because everybody wants those coveted downtown hotels, but they're just so difficult to get because the availability is just really limited.
Yeah.
And then again, save money because they're not cheap. But they have on those forums where the buying groups are, they also have some like spreadsheets where you can sign up to swap hotels if you didn't get the one you wanted but somebody else did, or some people, because they are in groups, they have extra rooms that they want to give away, so you can look to those groups to give away or receive hotels that people have.
And we actually did that this year because out of our 6, 2 of us got hotel rooms, so we only need 1. So we gave the other one to someone else who's going.
Yeah, which leads me to my next tip, social media. Social media is super duper important for everything related to the convention, whether it's Instagram, Facebook, Twitter, the update, podcasts, yes, for sure. So being up to date with all of that stuff is super important so that you have all of the latest news on what's going on with the convention, even that before the convention and even at the convention as well. So we'll link all of the people that we follow on Twitter for the best Comic-Con news, including our own Twitter account that we need to be more active on.
Yeah, we're trying.
But so definitely follow those accounts if you want to stay up to date on all the con news. And then tip number 5, planning. So it's really important that you plan ahead and have backup plans, and then backup plans, and then backup plans, because
not everything's guaranteed, and things are changing. Because if you're planning to go to a lot of signings or to get a lot of exclusives, everybody is. So if you're not there in time, you're obviously gonna have a less of a chance to get anything.
Right. So we like to create spreadsheets, like even a calendar spreadsheet to show like what you're planning on doing each day. That's super helpful. And then you can also have like a backup plan for if something falls through, or you can also have like a map They have maps online.
Yeah.
We'll link that below as well. Of the convention center, and then also just like the downtown area of like the gas lamp area and stuff like that, where they have all the offsites. So just kind of plan out your schedule of where you're going, and then also leave room for, you know, lines.
Yeah.
And then just some downtime, because if you're just going to be scheduling every minute of every day, that's going to be exhausting.
All right, so tip number 6, it says to bring snacks, especially dry foods, just because when it comes to the hotels, not all of them have a refrigerator. Things we normally bring are like trail mix, beef jerky, we bring chips, we bring
like dried fruits,
especially when it comes to the weather there. It's really hot. So you also want to bring water to stay hydrated. Other things, because it is so sunny out there, you want to bring sunscreen, especially since all the lines are outside. Either you're sleeping out there, or you're standing there early in the morning or late in the afternoon for the next day. Bring sunscreen. You also need portable chargers, just because of how we said you want to stay connected with your social media as Twitter, Instagram, Facebook, podcasts. Because you're on your phone so much, you're going to waste your battery and you're not going to have anything left at the end to want to take a picture with somebody. You'd think we wouldn't be on our phones as much because we're there enjoying it. But the reason why we are on our phone so much is because we're staying connected for the exclusives, for parties, for what else?
You want to record everything that you see, because there are
you don't
so
know
many cool
who
things
you're going to run into.
Yeah.
So tip number 8. You're going to Comic-Con because you want to see the panels, you want to go to the signings, you want to get the exclusives. But because San Diego Comic-Con is the entire downtown area, there are many off-site events that they're not really advertised. So with social media, you want to stay connected so that way you know what's happening off-site. And really with the off-site events, they're not as crowded. They're a little more intimate when it comes to who you're going to see there. They also have a lot of gaming tournaments. They have, a couple years ago, it was like a Netflix experience, which I died. Stranger Things was there.
That was so fun.
The next year it was DC, so when they were coming out with their new shows, whether it was like on Hulu or if it was on, does Amazon have a TV show?
I think Netflix.
Just anything DC related, they had a little experience there, and they usually give away some really cool things.
But a really good tip that we like to follow every year is check out the offsites as early as you possibly can
if you don't,
in the week.
If you don't have preview night, which is on Wednesday, just start looking. I don't think anything's open during that time, but just start walking around. That way you know where everything is for Thursday morning. That's where we're typically at on Thursdays, unless there's a panel or a signing that we absolutely want to go to. But usually on Thursday mornings, we're at the offsites just because lines get really long by Friday, Saturday, because they hear about what they have. And after Thursday, lines took 4 hours.
Like, all day long, essentially. Like, definitely check out the offsites before word gets around, because hype builds up and then you spend all day waiting in line.
And speaking of waiting lines, which is our next tip, tip number 9, lines. There are 3 major ones. There's the Hall H line, the Indigo Ballroom, and the Everything Else line. For the Hall H, I'm going to ask that Leanne take over and explain that process.
Yes, these processes change like from year to year. So we're just basing this off of 2018. So Hall H line, that one has always been outside. I don't think that's ever going to change. But so pretty much you line up on the, if you're staring at the convention center, you're going to be lining up on the left side of the convention center, right outside of Hall H.
It's really close to the Hilton Hotel if you're staying there.
It's like right in between the convention center and then the Hilton Bayfront. So those are where the tents are set up at. You start the line there, and then usually they have like the lines for the panels that are going on that day under the tents. And then when you go around the convention center towards the bay,
those are next day lines.
That's where the next day line starts. And that's where it gets really fun, because people are lining up on that day for the panels for the next day.
Not even the next day sometimes.
Or sometimes even 2 days after. And so there's a whole new process that Comic-Con started, like, I want to say maybe 3 years ago. Where you get like a wristband when you're in the next day line. So what usually happens, and this is also the important part of staying up to date on social media, because usually people post on Twitter about when they start handing out these wristbands because it's not really like a set time. They kind of just pick and choose whatever time
They'll
they want to.
usually say a time, but it never happens.
It never happens. So you pretty much wait in line towards the end of the day. It's usually after the lines for the last panel of the day have gone inside.
We'd say like 6.
I would say like 6-ish.
7 maybe.
Yeah. Those are the best times to get into the next day line if you haven't been already waiting all day in that line. And they will start handing out wristbands for the next panel, the panels for the next day. Once you get your wristband, you can leave and go back to your hotel, or if you want to go get something to eat, if you want to go to like another offsite or something like that. But one person in your group, and then this is also another thing that changes. It has to be like one person per...
It's like a ratio.
It's like a ratio. So sometimes it's like 1 for every 3 people in your group or 1 for every 5 people in your group. That changes from year to year.
They'll let you know when they give you the wristband.
Yeah. So basically, however many people need to stay in line to save your spot. If no one stays in line in your spot, then you have to go to the end of the line.
Isn't it, of that section? Where, let's say if you were given the A wristband, which you're the first group to go in, say if you have no one staying in the line overnight, then when you come back, you go to the end of the A section before the second group goes in, which is B.
Right. So that was my understanding as well. But then I have seen instances where once you miss that group, that's it. You got to go to the end of the line.
Well, yeah, so once you miss, so let's say A already goes in,
then you got to go to the end of the line. But because you have a wristband, they'll still probably let you in.
Yeah.
After the D group, you know, we're not going to
I mean, there's been, the wristband, it hasn't been the most effective or organized. There's one year where everybody had a wristband.
Yeah,
and they still didn't get in.
Yeah, so I mean, wristbands are generally supposed to guarantee that you will get inside, but they don't always. So you just kind of got to be prepared for that. But everybody has to be back in line.
Yeah, not just like the ratio where it's like 2 people per
Every single person in your party has to be back by that time that they give you. And depending on what panel that you're going for, they sometimes still hand out wristbands really early in the morning. You could show up as early as like 4 or 5 o'clock in the morning and still possibly get a wristband for that day.
It just depends on what panel. Like The Walking Dead, no chance.
No chance at all. If you're going for Marvel, sorry, you need to be there like
no chance.
8 a.m. the day before to get a wristband. But if you're going like for
Sunday's pretty chill.
You could probably walk up at like 5 a.m. and still get a wristband for Sunday. So I think that you just kind of got to plan your schedule and figure out what's more popular, and definitely plan to wait in line longer for that kind of stuff. And then Indigo Ballroom.
So for Indigo, it's not as chaotic as the Everything Else line or the Hall H line. It's very low key. Indigo, how do we line up? It's
outside the Hilton Bayfront.
Yeah.
So usually when you're walking between the convention center and the Bayfront, if you want to go to Hall H, you go to the right. If you want to go to Indigo, you go to the left.
Yeah. There's like a little walkway in front of that separates like the convention center and the hotel with the water. And you also, it's very close to this little restaurant they have right outside. So with Indigo, it's a lot of more of like the animated panels, which I enjoyed last year when we went.
Or like NBC. They have a lot of panels in Indigo Ballroom as well.
It's a lot smaller than Hall H.
A lot
significantly smaller. So wherever you sit, you do have a good seat in the house versus Hall H, where if you get in a little too late, then you risk not being able to see the actual panel, but there are screens in there for you to see. I don't think there's really much for Indigo.
No,
because it's very self-explanatory. Especially there are the people who are out there working. They know where the line is. They know how it works there because it does not change for Indigo.
I will say the Indigo Ballroom line is probably one of the most organized lines that we have been in, because you will see that there are some other lines that are not.
The Everything Else line. So with the Everything Else line, that means Ballroom 20. That means the exhibit floor. That means exclusives. That means
the sales pavilion.
Yeah, exhibit hall. Besides Indigo for panels and Hall H for panels, you are in the Everything Else line.
If you're lining up prior to the opening time that day, then you will be getting in the Everything Else line, which does also start by the tents where the Hall H line starts, but it's like in the very front.
It has its own set of tents, but I think if you ask around, people know the Hall H line, they know the everything else
they'll
line.
have signs also of like where the Hall H line starts. So pretty much everything in front of that point is the everything else line.
And you hear us saying prior to, and it's because people are sleeping in the line. And if you're hearing this and you're shocked, it is completely normal. Thousands and thousands. The convention center holds 130,000 people.
Yeah.
And thousands of people are sleeping in these lines days before, depending on what's happening.
Yes.
So don't be as shocked if you plan on getting there at 4 a.m. That's good. It's early for that day. But people, chances are, have been staying there since noon the next day.
If your
or the previous
goal
day.
is just to get into a panel, you don't care where you're sitting, then it's perfectly fine to show up, you know, like 5, 6 o'clock maybe that day and wait in line. That's still very early, but that's just the way that it is with Comic-Con. But if you want to be like in the very front row.
Like, let's give an example. We saw Once Upon a Time front row, and I want to say we were in line 2 p.m.
The day before. Yeah. So if you want to be front row for like The Walking Dead
or that's days
Game
before.
of Thrones,
Days before.
Yeah, you will need to get in line like early on in the day before. So I would say probably before noon, the day before.
But let's just say that would have to be your only priority because you risk missing out on other events that are going on.
And that's another tip is kind of with planning your schedule, you need to prioritize what's important to you, because you could spend all day waiting in line for this offsite, or you could spend all day waiting in line for this panel, or you could spend all day walking the convention floor.
Which is something you don't want to do.
All 3 things you cannot do on this at the same time in the same day, because it's just not possible.
It's not. They've set it up to where you can maybe go to like 2 things a day, which, I mean, I'm not saying it's a bad thing just because those 2 things that you're going to is those 2 things that you want to go to, and it's an experience of a lifetime.
Right, exactly. Yeah, Comic-Con is still an amazing experience regardless of what it is that you get to see. There's stuff for everyone. So
all ages,
all interests, like there's something for everybody there. So you could really go to Comic-Con and never even go inside and have a good time.
Oh, let's say this, because everything outside is free to the public. You don't have to have a badge.
No badge required for like, I would say 80 to 90% of the offsites. So if you don't even get a badge and you just happen to be in the downtown area, or if you're still traveling to Comic-Con but you don't have a badge, there is plenty to do outside.
Plenty.
And those are some of the most fun times at Comic-Con, is the stuff that we've done outside.
I just want to bring up the last tip. It's just the 3-person rule that we have. We have a 3-person rule just because the people who are working there, majority of them are volunteers. So they're getting there at 7 a.m. And then really quickly they're being told where to stand and what they have to do, but they really don't have a full knowledge of what should actually be happening. So we'd say if you are unsure of what line you should be standing in or where you should go, ask 3 people. The first person, you hope that they know what they're talking about, but if you get to that second person and it's a completely different answer, you got to ask one more person.
Right. If you ask 3 people the same question and you get the same answer, go
good.
with it. It's solid advice. If you get 3 different answers, I would say ask somebody else.
Yeah, or even if you could have 3 people give you the same answer, but sometimes it might seem a little unsure. They're like, oh, I think it's over here. So there's A through H entrances, and we were told that at C we can go and pick up our bags for the first day, and then they're like, no, you have to go all the way down to G, and then at G the person said no, you go to C. So we walked back and forth a couple of times, and we let them know, we're like, people over here are sending us over here because they're saying this is how we get in.
And this happens every single year, and you would think that they would figure it out, but that's just the way that Comic-Con is. Like, you have to be prepared for people to not know what's going on.
You just have to take it as
you
is.
just gotta roll with it, and
which is why you have to plan.
Yes, plan, but then also leave it to just go with the flow.
Yeah, it's
like one of the most stressful experiences that you will ever have.
Yeah.
But then it's also so much fun.
That drive home or your flight home, you're gonna just reflect on everything and be like, man.
Like it's really like experience that a lot of people don't get to have.
Yeah.
And we're lucky enough to have gone several years, and it's just one of the best experiences that I think we've all had as a group.
Yeah. I mean, we enjoy it so much that we got matching tattoos.
Yes.
So
These are the coordinates of the convention center because we're insane.
Yeah.
So, but hopefully this video and these tips were really helpful for you. If you have any other questions about things that we didn't cover, feel free to comment below, and we'll answer any questions that we can.
Or follow us on Instagram.
Yes. Follow us on Instagram, Twitter. Tweet us if you want to meet up at Comic-Con. If you're going to Comic-Con, we always love making new con friends.
Hopefully these tips were helpful, and you can comment back after Comic-Con saying that you actually did enjoy your first year.
Please let us know if these were actually helpful.
Yeah, because if we're just talking and you guys are like, this wasn't helpful at all, please let us know.
Please let us know and we'll redo it.
All right.
Okay.
Bye.
Bye.